Welcome back, everybody. Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. All right, I want to make a video sort of, addressing a question that I get quite a bit from people. And you guys know that over the years, I've always been supported heavily on the channel by SDI and things like that. And I want to just sort of pose the question and answer for y'all. Is a career in gunsmithing right for you? And what's crazy is so many people tend to have their opinions about distance learning programs or gunsmithing programs or higher learning related to gunsmithing and things like that. And maybe they don't initially ask themselves the question if the gunsmithing is even right for them as a career. And I think that that's probably an important question to answer. And some of you, may be thinking to yourselves that I'll go get some education related to gunsmithing, or I'll take a gunsmithing course, and then when I get out, there's going to be work waiting for me or something like that. Not always quite that simple. Obviously, there are some things to consider, and I'm not trying to overstep any boundaries here over what colleges have taught about gunsmithing or the various trade schools, which we've worked with many of them over the years, and this is not really meant to be, let's just say, giving the stamp of approval for any one school over the other. That's not what I'm trying to do here. What I'm simply trying to do is allow the end user to answer that question, if a career in gunsmithing is even right for them as a choice to pursue. As you know, gunsmithing programs are not necessarily cheap to undertake. They do cost quite a bit of money no matter who you go with. It can be an expensive endeavor with a lot of credit hours required and time required and a lot of knowledge base to get into it. And that's to say that even when you have a degree, an associate's degree in gunsmithing, will that give you a step in the right direction? It obviously will. I mean, if you have a degree in gunsmithing, you're going to have a lot better chance of being hired as a gunsmith somewhere than if you don't. So higher education is obviously a really good foot in the door, first step type of thing to get you in the door. But is a career in gunsmithing a worthwhile career? Can you make a lot of money as a gunsmith? Well, I'll tell you. I worked professionally as a gunsmith for a couple of years under Ray Vaughn there at Moss Pond. Now, Ray has moved on. He's not with Moss Pond anymore doing gunsmithing work. This was back when things were really rolling heavy. We were doing a lot of Sega conversions. We were doing a lot of, Mosin conversions and bolt conversions and SKS trigger jobs, lots of cleanings, lots of scope mounting, drilling and tapping, things of that nature. Cut and recrown jobs and things like that, pillar bedding on stocks, glass bedding of various types, fitting stocks, fitting components, fixing people's screw-ups. As you know, many of those come across the bench, removing stuck shells and overpressure loads and all sorts of random things, even down to identifying calibers for customers. Someone brings in a gun and you have to try to help them identify what it shoots or something like that. So an entire gambit of gunsmithing services, some restoration work, fire damage repair, etc., etc. The type of stuff that a gunsmithing shop is going to see on a regular basis if they're a full gunsmithing shop, which Moss was bringing in a lot of work. As a gunsmithing shop. There for a while, Ray and I were rolling. We were knocking out a lot of work, and I was helping him with Sega conversions, the 922R Sega conversions, which do require you to cut the window for the grip on the receiver. You're going to do some painting and work and file work and a little hand fitting, and you're going to, do a good bit of stuff that does require some knowledge and skill and patience and, and a little luck sometimes with those gas blocks on those 12-gauge Segas now. I did many gas port jobs on those Sega shotguns, and I will say that they can be real turds. And I must say that I came across my share of vodka guns, okay? What we call vodka guns. And I came across one Sega 12 that didn't even have gas ports at all. I don't know how they expected that gun to run, but that one must have been built on a Friday at 5 o'clock. Anyway, I digress. Point is, I worked professionally as a gunsmith for a couple of years. I also did Cerakote. I did some Cerakote, but mainly Duracoat work, and also did a lot of manganese and zinc phosphating, bead blasting, finish preparation, all of that stuff, so on and so forth. So I was doing refinishing work, some stuff that looked pretty artistic. So I have experience as a gunsmith. And I'll say, it was a fun job. You never know what's going to come across your table. So I know in terms of the fun factor, I mean, who doesn't love working on guns? I mean, it's obviously really fun to be a gunsmith. I mean, hello. And there's no better feeling than someone coming into the shop with a gun that they're having a problem with and you can help them. It's such a good feeling to help someone, and that sense of relief that they get, especially if it's some minor problem. They just had a stuck shell in the gun or a piece of brass gets stuck and they're thinking, oh my God, I've ruined my gun. I accidentally shot an overpressure load or something, whatever, and you correct the problem for them, and they think you are the best things in sliced bread when you fix their problem. Sometimes customers do a little more damage to their gun than good by trying to assess the problem themselves. However, I would never encourage someone to not try to assess their own problems with your gun, because that's the only way you're going to learn, is by making a mistake here or there. Now that can get expensive, but I digress. The point is the way you learn is by doing. And I think that the important thing to remember as a would-be gunsmith is that, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to come across jobs that kind of stump you a little bit, and that's all part of the process. But anyway, how is the money? Okay, so you're probably wondering that. I mean, you can make some pretty good money as a gunsmith, depending on the shop that you work for and the way that their rules are and what kind of cut they take. I mean, there are many, many different ways that a shop can handle hiring a gunsmith. Sometimes they will just set a fixed hourly rate that they're going to pay you whether you're working on guns or not. So sometimes it might just be hourly, and as much work as you can do, they're just going to pay you, one hourly rate. And it might be a negotiated upon hourly rate that is a considerably higher hourly rate. Okay. If you work for a large professional refinisher, for instance, you're probably going to be paid an hourly rate because you're going to work, you're going to be doing refinishing all day. Someone like Turnbull or some restoration company, or you're doing nibixing or nitriding or some sort of a industrial finish application. That's gunsmithing in a way, right? So you're having to deal with clearances and tolerances on a workpiece, and that throughout the day, that's all you're going to be doing is that one task. Yeah, you're probably going to be paid hourly, not by the job. Some shops may say, okay, well, based on the job, we'll take a certain percentage out of the profit, and for the shop, for our electricity and business, for them to have the FFL and the place of business and their rent and their electricity, they may take a portion of each job, okay? So, and there may be a combination of both, where maybe a gunsmith receives a paycheck, a normal hourly rate, and then maybe the jobs, they'll receive a portion of the jobs or split the jobs with the shop or something like that. So all of these things can be negotiated upon and agreed upon. But I will say, when things were really rolling good, I don't want to get into too many details on money because, I know sometimes the discussion of money makes some people uncomfortable, but to help some of you who may be uninitiated and want to know, I would say, I could make $5,000 a month after taxes, pretty respectable at the shop there. When we had a lot of work in the door, I was doing a lot of refinishing work, it wasn't uncommon to bring home $5,000 in a month, And especially where I was at my life at that time, I considered that fantastic money. And of course, the shop made good money, we made good money, and I got a lot of fulfillment out of that job. So, yeah, I think that, there are a lot of gunsmiths that can pull some really good money. Can you make six figures as a gunsmith? Maybe. If you're doing high-end restoration work, you're doing high-end refinishing work like, rust bluing and things like that, and really high-end refinishing work where you're charging, $1,500 to refinish a gun or something, or $2,000, to fire blue and rust blue a Luger or something. Yeah, if you're doing gunsmithing at that level, if you're at a high level, yeah, you can pull six figures a year as a gunsmith, especially if you own your own shop and you can stay busy and you have a good customer base and you have a lot of money coming in. Is that to say that if you're doing some specialized type of build, like building high-end AKs or building, high-performance ARs or high-performance 1911s, can you make way more? I mean, obviously, yeah, you can make, a lot of money as a gunsmith. Now, when you start selling custom builds, you start selling custom guns, and you're, have other gunsmiths under you, and you're paying them, and they're making money, and you're getting a percentage of their money, you become sort of a shop foreman. Yeah, at a higher level as a gunsmith who's, more of an experienced foreman type, and you're running your own shop. Yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit on what you can earn in terms of money. just based on the amount of money that you have coming in the door and the amount of customers, and especially repeat business. We found that a lot of our customers were repeat business. We had a lot of repeat business, and we relied on that business quite a bit. And we had a lot of word of mouth. I mean, obviously the YouTube channel was bringing some people in, but overall, most of our customers came by word of mouth, discovering from someone, oh, well, Eric and Ray are doing Sega conversions, they're doing trigger jobs, they're doing whatever, and, people would come in based off that. So, is a career in gunsmithing right for you? Well, I think that it also, again, as I said, return business, repeat business, and your clientele, it also comes down to where you are, okay? Where are you? Are you in a major city where you have a huge potential clientele? Do you live in a city where there's no gunsmith? Okay, well, chances are, if you live in a large city and there's no good gunsmiths in the area and you open up a shop, you're probably going to be very successful just by virtue of the fact that there's no other gunsmiths there. Now, you still have to do good work. I think that people get this sort of, jaded view that, oh, well, I have a degree in gunsmithing from whatever school I went to, therefore, I'm good to go and I can make no mistake and I can do no wrong. And that's simply not true. I mean, you still have to deliver the goods. You still have to put out good work. And look, just like a tattoo artist, okay, if a tattoo artist does a bad tattoo, what is everyone going to think of that tattoo artist? They're always going to remember him from that bad tattoo. They're not going to know about the 100 good tattoos that he did. They're only going to know about the one crappy tattoo. Gunsmithing's kind of the same way. Like, you build a reputation, and over time, people go, wow, like this guy puts out really good work, and he very rarely puts out a lemon, and if he does, what did he do to rectify it? How did he fix the problem? How did he correct the situation? If you get known for putting out good, consistent work, word is going to get around that you do good, consistent work, and more people are going to tell their friends that you're good, and they're going to bring their stuff to you. I mean, you wouldn't recommend a mechanic to somebody, right? If they did a crappy job on your car, or maybe they overcharged you or something like that, you're not going to call that mechanic and tell them, hey, you overcharged me, I'm never coming back to you again, but you're also not going to tell your friend to go see that mechanic either. And that's how the gunsmithing world is. If you overcharge someone, maybe you overcharged them, maybe the job took too long, maybe you did a bad job, maybe the finish looks like crap, maybe you scratched their gun and you didn't realize it, and that person may not tell you their grievance, but they're not ever going to come back to you again. So keep that in mind. Your clientele, are you in a large city where there's no gunsmith? Do you have a lot of good repeat business? Are there a lot of people in your area that do a lot of custom cars and things? Like maybe they're into refinishing guns and doing, custom guns and different skins on their guns and finishes. That's something important to know. If you live in a city where every third car is some custom, sports car, chances are those guys have some money to throw at refinishing their guns, okay? So you might want to offer refinishing service, offer custom Cerakote, or offer custom Duracoat, or some sort of camo or custom refinishing service, plating, or whatever type of finish you want to learn how to apply and get set up to apply. It's really not that expensive overall to get set up to spray Cerakote or Duracoat, right? And to cure those finishes appropriately, right? One matter of fact as well is that depending on where you are, it may not be viable for you to have a job as a gunsmith. So what if you're in a town where, maybe it's a big city, but there's 5 gunsmiths in your city? Well, now your pool of customers just shrunk by, a lot, right? So now you're having to compete with all these other people for the same business, right? So your choice is to either go work for one of those guys or start your own thing. And it's like, the saturation of gunsmiths in a given area, let's say for a city, it might be difficult for everyone to make a living. And if everyone's trying to be a gunsmith, it's going to make it all that much harder on everyone else. So these are all things to consider. How many gunsmiths are in your area? Do you live in a large city? How many people live in your city? I mean, if you live in the middle of nowhere, in some rural city in the middle of nowhere, okay, is that to say that they don't require the services of a gunsmith in those areas? They do. I'm not trying to say that someone shouldn't get a job as a gunsmith in some real rural area that's sparsely populated. In fact, sometimes being a gunsmith in one of those areas might be a fruitful endeavor, because once you're known as the go-to guy in that area, now everyone's going to come to you because they don't really have a choice. So it can actually have a different effect where if you're servicing a 30, 40-mile radius in some rural area, you might actually have more customers than you think you do in one of those kind of rural areas that seem somewhat removed from a big city. Because once you're known as that guy, well, everyone will just, they're already going to have to drive a long way if they're going to go to a city anyway. Well, then why not just come to you because you're local? So don't let the fact that you don't live in a large city, discourage you from potentially becoming a gunsmith, because you might actually find you're in a gold mine of opportunity, even in a small town, where once everyone gets to know you and you're established and you do good work, you might actually be sitting on a really good clientele who's going to always bring all of their needs to you as a gunsmith. And I think the last thing I want to just mention is that a degree in gunsmithing does not automatically make you a good gunsmith. You still have to put in the time and work and learn and make mistakes and hone your craft. It is still a skill set that you still have to put out good work, y'all. It's not an excuse to put out bad work. There is never an excuse to put out bad work, okay? So if you are going to try to get a job professionally as a gunsmith, don't put out bad work. If you think what you're about to do is going to, not improve the gun, you might want to think twice about doing it. I mean, take your time and think methodically. Don't try to rush a job and screw something up, and now you've lost a customer and potentially even pissed them off enough to, want you to try to replace their gun or replace a part or something like that. You don't want to get into that. You want every customer to be happy. And just think in the back of your mind, is this person going to be happy? If this was my gun, would I be happy with it, right? Ask yourself that, and if the answer is no, you need to consider not putting that gun back out to them. You need to make it right, and even if you have to rectify that situation internally, you need to rectify it. So, these are all things to keep in the back of your head. Is a career in gunsmithing right for you? Well, I laid out hopefully some food for thought for some of you that have been thinking about it, and regardless of what school you go with or what type of education, higher education you choose to get, or whether you apprentice. Maybe you just work under a gunsmith and you have no education at all and all you do is an apprenticeship. That's possible as well. So there are many ways that you can learn gunsmithing. There's also a lot of really good videos on YouTube, some that I've put out, Ray's put out. Look at Mark Novak. I mean, there's a ton of really great knowledge and resources right here on YouTube that teach you some of the basics and things. So start there and improve your skill set. However you decide to get your higher education, however you decide to develop your knowledge base, develop that knowledge base and turn it into a skill set that will produce for you. I guess that's really what it comes down to. So wanted to make this quick video. Some folks have been asking me about it. I hope you all have a great day. Thanks so much. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.